The movie begins with a narrator saying many people think they are possessed. We see a few people giving brief interviews about it. We also see some cases of scary possession. The scene changes to a couple lying in bed. The woman asks the man, Jared, if he is awake. But he doesn't answer. She leaves the bed and soon seems to return to it. Now he is partially awake, saying she is freezing. He asks if she is still mad at him. We learn it is not her who got into bed. Once Jared realizes this, he becomes alert. He gets scratched as he gets out of bed. The couple quickly hides in the washroom out of fear and hears a ruckus in the room outside. Jared opens the door to check what is going on. We see a shadowy being hiding from them, in addition to seeing the place is a mess. The moment is tense as he cautiously moves through the place. He calls out to whoever is there. The lady starts to follow him with an equal level of cautiousness. Jared suddenly surprises her, telling her to be quiet. It doesn't take long for him to find a possessed woman sitting scared on the counter. We see a catatonic woman sitting elsewhere. She is the main character, Nell, getting asked if she escaped from a cult. She even gets asked if she knows her name. Since she isn't answering, the doctor who asked the questions wants to take her to a different place. When Nell is getting a bath, the nurse cuts some of her hair and collects it in a pouch for a reason unknown. A radio is there that says Nell's name. It asks if she can hear the one who is talking. This causes her to get an image and behave abruptly to scare the nurse. The first thing she says is the startled words that someone will take all of their lives. The next scene has her sitting with the doctor, whom she asks if she is deceased. He says she is alive in a hospital in New Orleans. He informs her there was a fire. People are still sorting through its remains. He believes Nell is the only one who survived it, but she says an unspecified he is still out there. The doctor asks who she means, and she replies, "It is Abalam, the demon." Afterward, Nell gets driven to a halfway house. Inside, she sees another lady lying on the couch. She does the nice thing of complimenting the lady's boots. The response she gets, though, is a slight look of rudeness. While Nell walks upstairs with another doctor, he says he does not believe in demons. Yet he believes in the evil done by people. He assures her whatever she is running from will not find her at this house. He gives her an envelope from which she takes out a necklace with a cross. Before she puts it on, he says she should take some time to decide if this faith is something she wants. The man adds it is her life, and she gets to decide who she is. Nell thanks the doctor as he leaves. She checks how the necklace would look on her in the mirror. Soon another young lady of roughly Nell's age surprises her at the doorway. She feels the need to call Nell a freak. She is Gwen, asking the newcomer if she is from a cult in the woods. Since Nell has difficulty providing an answer, Gwen tells her to sit and listen to music with her. They laugh while listening to it. We then see 5 of these women sitting in a room with the doctor. He says they all have pasts. It is part of who they are. He wants all of them to write a letter to someone who hurt them. Our attention is brought to a few of the mean letters getting written. Nell starts to write a letter to Abalam, saying she decided he is not real. It makes her smile to write this. 2 months have passed and the doctor tells her she is doing much better. She now works as a maintenance lady. He asks if she is getting along with her housemates. Nell likes to think she is. She says she had good dreams last night, no nightmares, and no one has tried to contact her. The last thing she tells the doctor is there was darkness, but it is gone. In the next scene, Gwen applies lipstick to her. We see they have become close friends. She gets Nell to look at herself in the mirror, and she smiles. Outside, a young man named Chris speaks to Nell for a brief time. Once they are away from him, her housemates talk about the guy with her in a joking way. Following this, they all occupy a parade. A man in a blue mask is there who looks like he's watching Nell. In a short time, the same man wears a different mask. Nell seems to be trailing behind her friends during their fun time outside. She approaches a performer who pretends to be a motionless tin soldier. He suddenly turns to look at her, which scares our girl. His reaction is the opposite. She puts a coin in his bucket and he breaks character by saying she has been missed. Of course, such words surprise her. Nell asks him to repeat what he said, but he just returns to his original position. She comes to Gwen, who says she thinks the Tin Man likes her. Nell turns around to see he is standing behind her. Again, she gets scared. Leaving the parade, Nell sees a man looking at her. She thinks he is her father. Strangely, a passing vehicle causes him to vanish. At the halfway house, we see everyone is sleeping. Another strange thing happens with Nell's arm moving on its own. She gets an abrupt, scary image that prompts her to wake up. She leaves the room and hears an unsettling sound nearby. Soon she witnesses one of her housemates suffering on the bed, like she's being possessed. Nell's fearful scream awakens the others to see this. For some reason, Gwen wears a short-lived smile as she watches the lady suffer. On the next day, Nell walks to her job. Chris startles her from behind to say she is late. Aside from the criticism, he says he has a surprise for her after work. While she's working, she spies on a man in his room singing to himself. He catches her looking at him. She vacuums a room, and a working radio gets her to stop. In the process of tuning it, she hears the device utter her name. A voice asks her if she can hear it. The voice says an unspecified he knows where she is. In the background we see the door open with a blurry person standing at the doorway, but the person turns out to be merely her boss, Bev. The next scene shows us Chris's surprise for Nell. They are at the zoo together, and he asks if it is true she never had a boyfriend. She wonders who has been saying such rumors. Chris says she is very pretty, to which she replies, she cannot do this. She tells him she got pregnant, yet thinks certain people took her baby away. At the house, she gets informed of a phone call for her. Hence, she rushes downstairs to answer the landline. Oddly, she hears a baby crying on the other line. Upon putting the receiver back on the phone, it rings. She answers it, and thinks the caller is Chris. All she hears in response is the repetition of her words, until a man says something indecent to her. This makes her put the receiver down and unplug the phone. Scarily, this does not prevent the phone from continuing to ring. So, she resorts to running away. While she is sleeping in a room with Gwen, we see someone passing by. A man says Nell's name and she wakes up to see her dad sitting on a chair. He tells her an unspecified he is coming for her. If he can seduce her, he will become free. Once Nell turns on the light, her dad is not there anymore. On the next day, she meets Chris at her job, ignoring his greeting. He says he called her last night, but she didn't answer it. Since Nell tells him to stop, he asks what happened. She sadly answers, everything is wrong with her. He tries to kiss her, causing her to ask what he likes about her. All he says is, he's not good at this either, and they kiss. We then see her being happy during her work. Hearing sounds behind a wall, Nell puts her ear against it to listen to them. The part of the wall she touches seems to bleed. We see a blurry person again at the doorway. This time, it can't be her boss. At night, she talks in her sleep, saying she misses someone. A sound awakens her. She looks out the window to see Chris, who motions for her to come out. When she is outside, she has trouble finding him. Someone runs by for her to notice. Soon a voice whispers that an unspecified "we" are not Chris. This scares Nell to the point of running back into the house and quickly locking the door. Of all people, her father is inside to grab her. He tells her not to be scared. She is confused because she thinks he is supposed to be deceased. He repeats that if the unspecified he seduces her, all hope is lost. He wants his daughter to know God forgives her, and she can be saved. They hug each other with big emotions before he says he never should have trusted a preacher to do what had to be done. He claims he would do anything for Nell. Thus, he aims a shotgun at her and says it is the only way to save her, but Gwen knocks him down. She turns to Nell with darkened eyes, saying no one can have her except the one who is always referred to as him. The door closes to separate Nell from them both. She hears her dad scream, so she yells for this to stop. This brings the doctor to her, and she tells him the unnamed he is in there. He enters the room, yet she waits to look inside. Once she does, she sees no one in there. A normal Gwen appears to ask what happened. Later, the doctor informs Nell the psychiatric hospital will not be a kind place. She tells him she is not crazy, for she knows what she saw. She adds Gwen was not herself, making the doctor yell that it's enough. He warns if she keeps this up, he will be left with no choice. Frustrated, Nell leaves the room. During sleep, her blanket gets removed by something we don't see, and she gets lifted by an invisible force. In the morning, she is the last to awaken. She walks inside the house, searching for anyone. A picture falling from the wall startles her. It reveals a weird symbol. She hears someone scream in another room. She slowly enters that room to see it is merely her housemates watching something on the computer. Upon being asked what it is, Gwen answers they are watching Nell. It is a YouTube video titled Crazy Possessed Girl in the Woods. It shows none other than our girl being in an unnaturally bent position. Nell says it's not her, but gets told it is. The video shows Nell disturbing things, and she demands it be stopped. When the doctor joins them, one of the ladies says Nell has a demon inside her. This prompts her to leave in anger. Gwen forms a smile again. Alone with her, the doctor tells Nell they all have pasts they wish they could undo. He adds the person she saw in the video is not her. What the cult did does not define her. Only her actions do. Soon she puts on the cross necklace in front of a mirror. The next scene has her going to a church. Sitting at a bench, she asks God to show her the way. A priest appears and says it never hurts to ask for help. As he approaches her, he says it is lonely to fight a losing battle. Once he says she is putting off the inevitable, Nell's expression becomes worryingly curious. He asks what good comes from resistance. All they have to do is ask for love. He puts his hand on her to say she cannot run from the nameless him. At this point, Nell becomes uneasy and asks him to let her go. The priest continues that there is no place the unspecified he won't follow her. Scarily, birds begin to slam into the building. He has great plans for her, says the priest. Thankfully, Nell frees herself before running out of the church. Outside, she sees the macabre sight of over a dozen birds lying deceased on the ground. While she walks, a man runs to her with amazement. He is someone who viewed her video and considers it amazing how she bent her body. The man takes a photo with her. However, he is glitched in the photo. Since he wants to take another one, Nell rudely tells him to go away. This results in him falling and jerking on the ground. A woman rushes to Nell, telling her she needs to come with the former Later, the woman, Cecile, says she has been watching her from the time Nell was at the hospital. She mentions the Order of the Right Hand, an organization that has been trying to protect Nell from the dark presence. They have an old prophecy about the end times, which will occur when the demon takes an innocent. Their destruction will be next. Cecile says she saw Nell's devil, and he is planning something for her. Therefore, the woman takes Nell to her house, where she says Nell is safe. She points to a symbol on the wall that she says proves it. The symbol looks like the one that was revealed at the halfway house. Cecile says darkness is not the sole power in this world. Moving along, she starts to burn something, and says she will call on Baron Samedi to protect her guest. She instructs Nell to take 5 breaths. On the 5th, the clouds behind her eyes will part. Once Nell does this, Cecile says, now she can see. Cecile receives many images that Nell experienced in the past. She asks to see more, but Nell says she can't because it's not safe for Cecile. This causes the woman to open her eyes and ask Nell what she means. Nell starts to scream in fear. Flies appear near her in addition to the lights going out. Upon returning, Cecile sees several knives levitating that she brings down with the power of her words. The safety symbol on the wall has become burnt. At a different time, Cecile says the prophecy is coming true. They have less time than she thought. She says the demon that was inside Nell wants her, yet not like he previously did. She thinks the demon loves Nell and is powerless without her. Cecile cannot help her alone due to the demon's immense power. He knows everything about her. Cecile asks who is Chris, shifting the scene to him. He enters a room that displays static on the television. Soon it gets replaced with Nell talking. She arrives at his place, seeing him sitting oddly on his bed. It makes her ask what is wrong, to which he replies the demon loves her very much. Chris does not think he can ever love her like that. Hence he does something disturbing, and he does it like it's an everyday action. This shocks our girl and she gets images of happy moments with him. As she tries to tend to Chris, he repeats that the demon loves her very much. Afterward, she answers a ringing phone. The person on the other line says he is Chris, even though Nell just witnessed him lose his life. He says he has a friend who wants to meet her. All she can respond with is that she is going to take the caller's life. Back at Cecile's house, the woman says some people will arrive in a short time. When 2 people do, the one named John Calder thanks Nell for letting them come. He promises to make her better. They all enter another room, where John says a piece of the demon is still inside Nell. She sits, and John's companion connects wires to her. John reveals a chicken in a cage before Nell gets instructed to lie down to get restrained. She learns the restraints are in case she experiences a seizure. The companion starts to pour salt around her to form a circle of protection. Cecile writes the word Croatoa on Nell's stomach. John says they will sever the demon's hold on her and bind him to the chicken. As he begins to engage in the ritual, Nell hears banging behind a door, but John says he's not finished. She sees a person with a mask near the door. John returns to the ritual, and his colleague says, it's not working. The mysterious person removes the mask to reveal it is none other than another Nell. She tells the lying Nell that she is a tiger raised by lambs. She adds Nell was born to be magnificent. We see something moving inside her stomach, prompting her to yell for it to be stopped. The power of the demon gets the wall to crack. John attempts to bind the demon to the poor chicken. He utters the name Abalam, and a huge face briefly appears on the wall. Since a lot of destruction is being created, John is forced to inject Nell's IV with something. With that done, Nell perceives her father. He tells her she fights very hard, but asks her why. He informs her she got injected with a lethal dose of morphine. Cecile says she is sorry for what they did. They had no choice. Nell yells to be helped. Chris appears to say everyone lets her down except for him. He claims to always be there for her prior to saying an unspecified they have been waiting for her to love them back. They were always one, according to Chris. Following this, the transforming entity turns back to occupying Nell's form. She says Nell just needs to take her hand. Soon, her heart rate monitor flatlines. Despite that, she wakes up, breaks through the restraint, and grabs the other Nell's hand. In the next scene, we see John fly out the window. The house starts to bleed with Nell exiting it. At the halfway house, she occupies the doctor's office. Finding her there, he wonders what happened. She tells him it is okay, and she wants to thank him for his help. Our attention is brought to the necklace he gave her. It is hanging on a deer statuette. He asks if she is Nell, and she replies she is not. She adds she knows who she is now in addition to who she was meant to be. Once the door closes behind the doctor, his head starts bleeding. Behind the blurry glass, we barely see how the new Nell deals with him. Subsequently, a line of fire travels upstairs, causing Nell's housemates to scream. The lady who got taken by darkness gets into a car to drive away. As she drives past other vehicles, they suddenly catch fire from the inside. Alas, it even happens to a fire truck. Nell looks in the rearview mirror and we observe a fly exiting her eye.